Hey guys, welcome back to a new video. I'm Stephanie West. I'm a licensed counselor here in the state of Michigan, and I'm owner and operator of In Progress Counseling. Today we're going to talk about a pivot towards complexity, but also a pivot towards hopefully improved mental health outcomes for people. And the pivot is around how do we think about things? And I'm going to use very specific language around, do we have narrow definitions of right and wrong, narrow definitions that include shoulds and supposed tos, narrow definitions of who we're supposed to be, narrow definitions of who others are supposed to be. The more narrow our definition, the lower our tolerance of diversity, the lower our tolerance of other people being distinct and different from us, the lower our tolerance of our own peculiarities. The more narrow our definition, typically the more mental health distress we might experience. That's often the case, not always the case, but it's often the case. And so you might, if you're in different social media platforms that address mental health, you might be hearing the word flexibility. Do we have flexibility in how we think about things? Are we able to think about other people flexibly? Are we able to look at our stories and have multiple interpretations of things or complex perspectives of things? The more we're able to do that, the more we're going to be able to move through stressors that show up. So for example, let's say someone is showing up late to lunch, and I've decided that if someone is late, they're being disrespectful. Now that's a very narrow definition. That's a very well-defined assumption about what lateness means. And so because I've decided that, my emotions are going to flow from that. I'm going to feel disrespected because my narrow definition has said late equals disrespect. Now, if I can work on my definition of what lateness means, so perhaps someone got stuck in traffic, perhaps someone is tending to a phone call that's an emergency, perhaps someone is just a little late, because sometimes that happens. Perhaps sometimes I've even been late too and had needed grace from someone else. Perhaps as someone's late, I have a few minutes to catch up on social media, or I have a few minutes to chit chat via text. Perhaps I use this time in a way that I value. The more I give myself pathways through this narrow interpretation, the more I expand out my definitions, the less distress I feel in those moments when I'm sitting at a table and someone's not there yet. But imagine that strict definition, lateness equals disrespect. Minute 1 goes by, I'm feeling disrespected. Minute 2 goes by, I feel more disrespected. Minute 3 goes by, oh my word, I'm starting to get incensed. Minute 4 goes by, and I am starting to feel anger towards this person. I'm starting maybe to feel self-doubt about maybe I'm worth disrespecting, maybe nobody respects me. But because of the narrow definition, there's such a small interpretation available to me. The more I can expand out my definitions of things, the more I'm going to be able to pass through potential stressors. And I can also hear the pushback where people say, oh, okay, well then everything's relative and nothing matters anymore. Well, that's also a pretty narrowly defined experience of what a broadened definition is, right? It's like it's either really strict or there's nothing matters anymore and there's no boundaries ever. I'm being dramatic, and I have the right to be dramatic because it fits into this video somehow from my definition of things. But the point being, narrow definitions can often influence higher levels of distress. Mental flexibility, cognitive flexibility, it's our pathway through distress. How else can I think about this? What can I do in the meantime? Is there another perspective that might be useful here? Do I have resources available to me? Like I could check in with my friends, see how they're doing. Are they on their way? There's things I can do as I begin to expand out my definition that this particular thing here, someone's lateness, doesn't automatically mean disrespect to me. That's the invitation today. Cognitive flexibility typically involves expanded definitions of things, broadened perspectives of things, more grace and more patience when things don't look particularly how we think they might, or they're supposed to, or they should. Rigid definitions of things can often gridlock us into really uncomfortable negative emotions that might not even reflect enough complexity to hold a situation well. So that's the invitation today. Are we able to work on addressing our definitions of things, expanding them out a touch, and seeing if we give ourselves some pathways through agitation and anxiety?